Vanderbilt 40, Alabama 35. Just a few miles from where we're doing this recording from right now. Commodores knocking off the number one team in college football. How did it happen? What does it say about Alabama? What does it say about college football in general? What does it say about the weekend that was? We'll talk about all that right now, but first things first, make sure you are subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, nothing but college football. Whether you're a Bama fan, whether you're a Vandy fan, whoever you are supportive of, we're talking about your team more than likely on this very platform, so we appreciate you in advance from being dialed in. So this was one of those games that, as you kept getting the update from Kevin Nagandi, if you weren't actually dialed into the game itself in real time, you kept saying, whoa, wait, hang on. Vanderbilt's in that. Wait, hang on. Vanderbilt got a what? They got a pick six? Wait, Vanderbilt's up in they're up in the fourth? Whoa. Oh, this wasn't just a situation where Vanderbilt caught some magic, had a nice little start, and then folded like a lawn chair in the second half. Because that was, I think, something that most of the college football public kept waiting on. You kept waiting on Vanderbilt to look like Vanderbilt and have a situation where they came apart at the seams and they made some crucial error. Coach 30 would say the moment got too big, and you know the rest. They ended up not finding a way to finish it. That was not the case. And we'll talk about Vandy in a second. I want to start with Alabama because I think throughout the week, the conversation was rat poison this, trap game that. They just beat Georgia. And it was such a talking point that maybe it was almost overplayed. And I want to be very clear. I am not within those four walls in Tuscaloosa. And I think we would all be irresponsible to forget what Alabama just did a week ago at the crib over what was previously one of the top teams in college football in Georgia. They took them into the woodshed for the first half. I think that's going to be very easy for a lot of folks to say, well, if Saban was here, this wouldn't have happened. One, how do we know that to be true? We don't. Two, even if that were true, he's not there. So what's the benefit? Kalen DeBoer is your head coach. All right? It wasn't like you fired Nick Saban. It wasn't like you told Nick Saban to leave town. He retired on his terms. This is where we are right now. So if Nick Saban, I think that's kind of a pointless exercise. The second part of this, a lot of people are going to try to compare this loss to Saban's loss against UL Monroe. Well, hey, Saban, he had a loss to UL Monroe early in his career at Bama. This is not the same, all right, for a couple of reasons. One, Alabama that Kalen DeBoer inherited is in a much better place than the Alabama that Nick Saban got. That's first of all. Second, I think this Vanderbilt team is a lot better than UL Monroe that Nick Saban lost to. So let's just take those variables for what they're worth. Bama didn't play horribly. You score 35 points, you should feel pretty decent about your chances to win the football game. However, when you take a closer look, Alabama just did things that you cannot do and still expect to win the football game. Lost a turnover battle, 2-0. Had a pick six on one of those turnovers. That was obviously massive. Maybe the most telling stat, 42 minutes to Alabama's 17 minutes and some change. That, to me, was the difference in the football game. Vanderbilt controlled the tempo, controlled the overall momentum in this football game, sustained drives. That was the difference there. That was the difference. And again, I'll talk about Vanderbilt here in just a second, but Alabama very clearly did not have answers for what Diego Pavia was bringing on the other side of the football with Vandy and what they did on offense. So we'll talk about that. But here's the thing. As much as this hurts if you're an Alabama fan, and it hurts, it's inexcusable, this should never have happened. As good as Vanderbilt is, improved they were yesterday, Bama's better. Okay, and I don't want to make that, some wild discussion. Alabama's better. They play that game 10 times. I think Alabama wins 8, maybe 9. I don't know, but Alabama very clearly did not bring their best to the table. And this is kind of where we are in college football, man. If you don't bring your best to the table, based on what the portal has provided for other football teams, you have a better chance than you used to get beat. And that's a big reason why I think we saw what happened yesterday across the college football landscape, not just to Alabama now. Every single weekend, if you don't bring it, there's going to be a little extra juice on the other side if they played their portal cards correctly to where you could get caught slipping. And that was what happened for Bama. Now, here's the thing. If you're Alabama, this is the tremendous litmus test you didn't expect to get, but you're now getting. How does Kalen DeBoer handle a loss? Because he hasn't had to do this really very frequently as a college football head coach. We talk about it all the time. He's lost going into this game. I think it was some just egregiously low number. I want to say it was something like 12 football games as a head coach. Hasn't had to deal with losing all that much. Now he's having to deal with losing against a team that Alabama hadn't lost to in like 23 tries on the road after a very, very visible, emphatic win. I'm not here to tell you that he's still not going to be one of the best coaches of all time in Tuscaloosa, but in a spot like this now, we get to test his chops on hitting the reset button for his team. I'm not 100% sold that there's some massive issue in Tuscaloosa, but again, just to see them not play the way they did yesterday, to see them not play the way they were supposed to play yesterday. If you're an Alabama fan, yeah, it's discouraging, but everything is still in front of you. Like, you still have everything in front of you. You got to lock in now because it does not get easier in the SEC. You still have the best win in America to your resume, but you got to go to Tennessee still. Got to go to LSU. Got to go to Oklahoma. Like, it does not get easier if you're Alabama. All about how you respond. You got all the talent in the world. When you're on, I think they are still one of the best teams in college football, if not the best team in college football. I don't think we're wrong about Bama. Yesterday was just an example of where we are right now in the sport and the volatility that we still have in the best game on the face of the planet. Now for Vanderbilt, man, again, this happened a few miles from where we are right now. It's hard not to be happy for Vandy, right? Like, I understand if you're an Alabama fan, hurts a little bit. Maybe if you are like an SEC truther and you're trying to make a case for your conference in some discussion with your group text, I get that too. It doesn't help because Vanderbilt hasn't been the creme de la creme of the conference. I get it. But like, Vanderbilt has been the punchline of so many jokes for so long. For so long. And so to get a win last night had to be validating for Clark Lee, validating for that fan base, validating for everyone that had been saying, hey, they're not that far off. Hey, if they can get the right guy in there to run the show and kind of get things headed the other direction, tell you what, man, Clark Lee has done that, I think, to this point, being at Vandy. And Diego Pavia, to me, embodies everything about the change at Vanderbilt. Because when you play Alabama, when they come to your house, like, you got to have a little bit of just like us against the world, say what you want, we don't care, we're going to go play our ball, like, we're not scared of y'all. And that was what Diego Pavia brought to the table. You could hear it with what he said post-game. You could hear it if you were tuned into some of the socials that were out there and what Diego Pavia posted on his story pre-game, what he said to his team. Like, there was no fear when it came to what they did yesterday. And you kept waiting, again, for old Vandy to show itself, for them to fold and for them to not, be able to meet the moment. I don't think Diego Pavia cared about that moment in the moment. I think after the game you saw the emotions flow out of him, but like, there was no flinch in that dude. Like, he had been in situations like that before. Last year against Auburn, and I get Alabama wasn't necessarily the stature of Auburn last year, but what he did at New Mexico State, beating them last year, like, this dude is built differently. And I want to be careful with the comps to Johnny Manziel because I think you see the play style and you see him wear the same jersey number and everyone wants to make that comp. This was a really good team win yesterday from Vanderbilt. I want to make that clear. And Diego Pavia, I don't think is Johnny Manziel, but there was something very Manziel-like and something very Manziel-esque that it took from Vanderbilt and from Diego Pavia to win that football game. Took a little bit of off script, took a little bit of cavalier, a little bit of the play breaks down and you got something they don't have and you got to deal with his grit and his creativity, all those things now that ended up being the difference. And quite frankly, I think what a lot of teams are going to need to beat Alabama going forward. You got to be able to win off script, to be able to take them out of their comfort zone, out of their structure, and still find a way to get it done, man. Seeing the emotion pour out of that guy last night, man, that was cool. That was so cool. You could tell that was something that he had thought about all week, and it was cool to see them maximize that in the moment, man. Diego Pavia, 2 touchdowns passing, had 56 yards rushing, including the ultimate first down that sealed the deal. Like, that's a win right now if you're Vanderbilt, and that's a player in Diego Pavia that can change the narrative, because it's going to sound funny saying it out loud, and you always get dunked on social media when you say stuff like this, but we'll say it. If you can change the optics around Vanderbilt Nashville is a dope city. Have to believe that there is a lot of money in Nashville. I don't know this. Have to believe there is folks that went to Vanderbilt that want to see the football program be good. I don't see why you can't win at Vanderbilt. And I know that sounds funny. I know it sounds like we're just being the victim of the moment because they beat Alabama. I don't see a reason why you can't turn the narrative around and be successful in the SEC. Great academic institution. Cool city. Like, there's a lot there to recruit to. So, Vanderbilt finds a way to get it done. Alabama, everything in front of them. Kind of got to lock in a little bit here if you're Alabama, but wild, wild day yesterday in the sport. This was the cover of Week 6. If you were to make it a movie, this is what you put right there on the cover and say this is the opening scene. Vandy takes down top-ranked Bama in Nashville, and they throw goalposts in the river. They walked the goalposts through Broadway. Looked like a scene out of The Dark Knight. Unbelievable day. Unbelievable game. Bama still very much alive. The 12-team playoff still very much so. Could win the SEC and get a first-round bye. Got to lock in. And if this loss propels Bama to lock in now and kind of get back right and hit the refocus button, hit the reset button, you may look back and say that was the best thing that happened to us in our season. That's the reason why we are holding the national title trophy here in Atlanta. We'll see what happens. Make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.